Sunday drive home. Whew. Got to get some gas. Look at the sunset we ordered for the Sunday drive home. Ha! Fantastic. There's a lot to talk about tonight. But the thing, it's Thanksgiving on Thursday, and it seems appropriate to meditate a little bit on the giving of thanks. But there's so much to say about it. The Bible talks about Thanksgiving almost constantly. I mean, you can barely find a page of the Bible that doesn't talk about giving thanks to God. It's one of the chief first acts of worship. Remember the Psalm 136? Oh, give thanks unto the Lord, for he is good and his mercy endures forever, and on it goes. Or remember the 10 lepers who Jesus heals? He sends it to the priests and one comes back. And Jesus says, where are the others? Why only one came back to give thanks? Or Paul, who begins every one of his letters with thanksgiving. To Romans chapter 1, he says, first, I give thanks to God for you. And I don't think he means like the first thing I'm going to talk about is that I give thanks to God, but that there is a primacy of thanksgiving. In fact, later on, how does this go? I can never remember. In Romans chapter 1, Paul says, when he's talking about the pagan mind and how the Lord hands them over to confusion and unbelief and wrath, he says they exchanged the glory of God for creaturely things. They worshipped what was not God and so forth. And it says right in the middle of that, strange, right in the middle, and it says, nor were they thankful. So that one of the marks of the pagan mind is a lack of thankfulness. Can you imagine that? Paul, every one of his epistles, except for Titus and Galatians, every single one of his epistles, and maybe 2 Corinthians, he has a blessing, but all the others, they begin with thanksgiving. I thank God for you. I thank God for all of you. And Paul isn't just thanking God for the obvious stuff, like that you're awesome or well-fed or healthy or whatever. He's thanking God. His prayers are so theological. He's thanking God for the gifts, for the spiritual gifts, for the gifts of the Spirit, faith and a knowledge of God and His Word and all these sorts of things. These are the things that Paul is giving thanks for, and he begins with that thanksgiving. I've been talking to pastors lately. I got to do this at Doxology and then in a couple of other places, talking to the pastors about how our primary work is a work of giving thanks. Our not primary in the central work and also our first work. Man, it's dark. I'm thankful for the low light setting on this camera. I gotta get a camera or like a flat. How's that? Is that creepy looking? I'm like a ghost story now. Weird. Anyhow, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, how Paul gives thanks, and how this is transformative for us to begin with thanksgiving, because giving thanks involves a fundamental reorientation of our mind. This is the problem of Thanksgiving. I'll just say how it is for myself. Normally, I go to bed at night thinking not of what happened during the day, but thinking of what is going to happen tomorrow. So, today, church, Bible class, we had a long voters meeting. That's why it's dark out. Oh, voters meetings. I'm thankful for voters meetings. But tomorrow, I got coffee with a friend. That'll be great. I've got some table talk. We're going to do issues, etc. We're going to a couple of hospital visits and some writing. Oh, some writing. So I'm thinking now already about tomorrow, right? I always think forward. And when I wake up in the morning, I'm normally thinking of the things that have to happen that day, and I'm thinking of what's future, and I'm thinking of what's incomplete. And so my mind is pressing towards those things. Now, do you see, to give thanks involves the fundamental reorientation of the mind, because Thanksgiving doesn't have to do with tomorrow. It has to do with yesterday and today. Thanksgiving doesn't have to do with the future. It has to do with the past and the present. So giving thanks involves turning around where you're looking, and instead of looking forward, you're looking backwards. Instead of looking at what's next, you look at what's already. Instead of looking, now, and here's the main thing, instead of looking at what's incomplete, you look at what's been finished. So instead of what needs to be done, you're looking at what has been done. And I normally think of the things that I have to do, the demands that are on me and so forth, but to give thanks for the Christian is to look at the things that God has done. It's to look at God's activity. And so instead of looking forward at the things that I need to do, I'm looking backwards at the things that God has done. That's the fundamental reorienting move of Thanksgiving, and it is foundational. It is transformative. I have a little note card at home in my office. It sits on the blinds. I taped it to the blinds so I'd see it when I wake up in the morning, and it says, from St. Paul, Romans chapter 1, it says, first, thanks. I copied that note card and I put one up on my desk at church, my little cabinet at church. First, thanks. And then I wrote it on this rubber band this morning, but I think it rubbed off. But this rubber band used to say, first, thanks. In other words, before anything else, before any work, before any activity, before any thought of what hasn't been done, look and see what God has done already, and give thanks to Him for it. To begin with our whole lives, our days, our thoughts, our prayers, to begin it all with the foundation of thanksgiving. That is so key, and it's one of the marks of the Christian life. Now, I think also that there's a difference between the Christian giving of thanks and the pagan giving of thanks. And so let me suggest this distinction. I tried to say to Pastor Wolfmueller that it's the difference between gratitude and thanksgiving, but he doesn't think that my distinction holds up. So I have to say it's the pagan version of Thanksgiving versus the Christian version of Thanksgiving, and it's this. The pagan version of Thanksgiving, which is gratitude if you're not Pastor Wolfmueller, is to recognize the goodness of the thing in front of you. I'm grateful that you guys are watching this YouTube video. I mean, it's amazing that you would take 5 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever of your day and listen to me reflect on these things while I'm driving home. I mean, it's really kind of incredible that you would spare your attention for that. And I hope it's a blessing to you. I hope you're thankful for some of the things that you get to hear. It encourages you. So I'm thankful we're going to go have pizza tonight, and I hope we're going to go see that new Harry Potter movie about the crimes of something or other. That'd be kind of cool. And hopefully I know the pizza will be good. It's Dion's Pizza. It's an Albuquerque chain, but they moved up here. I used to make pizza at Dion's. That's how I made money in high school. And in fact, that's how Carrie first fell in love with me. She saw me making pizzas. Anyway, we're going to go have Dion's Pizza, and it'll be the greatest pizza, 505 pepperoni and green chili, and I'll give thanks because it's good. I'll be grateful for the goodness of the pizza, for the flavor, for the nutrition, for the cheese, etc. The spices. I'll be grateful for sleep. I'm grateful for my family. There's all these good things in life, and we recognize the goodness of them. And we're grateful. We have gratitude for it. But when you just like watch all the pagans, they're always talking about gratitude. They have gratitude journals now that you can buy. They've recognized the power of gratitude, and I think there's something there. Just to be able to look for the goodness in people, to look for the goodness in events, to look for the goodness in the things that are in front of you, to look for the joys of all these things that are happening. That is a shift of mind, and it's wonderful. But the Christian goes even further. The difference between gratitude, pagan thankfulness, and Christian thankfulness is that we don't just look at the goodness of the thing, but we look at the goodness of the giver of the thing. We see that it's God who gives us all these things, and we know that God is good. Oh, give thanks unto the Lord, for he is good, and his mercy endures forever. So we're able to not only see the goodness of the gift, but the goodness of the giver. And Christian thankfulness is found there in recognizing the goodness of the giver. That God, who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all, also together with him gives us all things, and we're thankful then for everything. Even, and this is the trick, even if we can't see the goodness in the thing that's in front of us, we can still give thanks to God for it. Like the kids who, if you're sitting there at the table and mom brings you the Brussels sprouts, and you look at the Brussels sprouts and you say to yourself, I don't recognize anything good about this thing. You didn't even let it grow. I mean, what would happen to it if it was a full-grown Brussels? Would it be edible then, or what? It's like a round, packaged piece of stinky leaves. I don't see anything good about the Brussels sprouts, and yet I know that the one who's giving me the Brussels sprouts, my mom, loves me and cares for me, so I can give thanks to my mom for the Brussels sprouts, not for the goodness of the gift, but for the goodness of the giver. This means that the Christian can give thanks in every circumstance. That's what Paul says to the Thessalonians. Give thanks to God in all circumstances, even in the really miserable ones. Even when things are bad, crummy, and the Lord hands us over to sorrow and affliction and torment and agony. Get out your thesaurus and look up agony. All those kinds of things. We can still be thankful because God loves us, and the things that he gives us are good. They're good. Better than we could ask for or even imagine. So we recognize that the hands that hand us over all the trouble of this life, that those are the hands that were pierced for us on the cross. We recognize that those were the hands that were raised in blessing as Jesus ascended from heaven. And recognizing the goodness of those hands, we can recognize and give thanks for everything that comes from those hands. So it's the cross that lets the Christian be thankful. It's the death of Jesus that lets us give thanks in all circumstances. It's more than gratefulness. It's gratefulness mixed with faith. It's Thanksgiving. I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. That's Sunday Drive Home.
Correction, Carrie said that she did not fall in love with me when I was working at Dion's.
Because he didn't even talk to you.